Hello, all of my students and quarantiners. Today's Tuesday, April 6th, 2021. Last time I checked. Today I'm kind of wrapping up what we were talking about yesterday within our True Cost of Fashion worksheet. So if we go ahead and open that, which I hope you've already done, hopefully you've had a chance to look through some of these interesting links. If not, I'm going to assign you one of the videos to watch, either the little bit of the labor rights or the living wages. Now, the other one that you really want to look at is the environmental impact of our clothes, because that is literally our journal question for the week in that aspect of things. So that's going to be kind of your homework tonight if you haven't done so. Secondly, what I'd like you to do is make sure that you have all your items listed in your True Cost of Fashion My Tags activity, which is this chart right here. Try to have at least 7 if you could. That would be great. And then hopefully you have about 9 or 10 in there in and of itself. If you find the cost, that's fine, not required. I know it's kind of hard to find in some cases. But I do want the item as best descriptive as possible, whether it says it on the tag or whether it says it somewhere in the garment itself or on the actual, like I said, this is just like a helmet, but it does say made in China. So I would say I don't even know a name brand of what it would be, but I'd say a customized mini helmet. And I don't even know, like I said, I don't know what brand it is even. I know Rydell makes these, but it doesn't look like it could be a Rydell. I could peel back the sticker probably and figure it out. But I'm guessing that's who made it. It's a Rydell replica helmet. But that's made in China because there's a stamp on the plastic. Could have been assembled in the U.S., but that doesn't count necessarily unless you're a Converse shoe. So the item, where it's made, and then if you could place it on the map, that would be great. All of those things. Now, there are 2 different maps, so just place on whatever map is linked to your sheet, and then we'll share those out a little bit. The other thing we did is went over. So this is a map I think that I updated it to. Nobody's posted on that, so I've been using this one in class, and we don't have a lot of points on there. It's kind of bland and boring, but it looks like a lot of us are putting down the point, and then for the point number, just put your product name and what it is. So a lot of these say .26 tank top. Make sure it's very specific. So .26, what kind of tank top is it? And I want you to put that up here. Okay, so instead of .26, I would like us to edit that and put tank top here. Now, if it's like an Old Navy tank top, that would be better. If it's a Target tank top, S&S, whatever the brand name is, that's what I want you to put there. And then if there's a bunch of blue ones on there, make yours a red one or a purple one. Like this one says Nike hoodie. Like that's nice. It tells us what it is. Levi jeans. Green tank top. Now again, black long jacket. Okay, if there is a number, it's like this phone says iPhone SE. That's good. We know exactly what that is, right? It's a brand name iPhone and what version it is. So that helps us kind of see a little bit where our products are, and we'll revisit that again tomorrow just to see how much that's changed. All right. So that was kind of yesterday. Plot those points, go over some of those images, and make sure that you answer your journal question, what are some ways fashion is bad for the environment? Friday, I'm going to give you a link to a documentary that really, really dives into how the world is affected by fashion. It's one of the most polluting industries in the world, and we don't really realize it, and a lot of Western culture is fueling that pollution. So a little bit more information on that. But as far as today and tomorrow, for sure, we're going to dive into fair trade and what fair trade is. So some of you have probably seen this image on packages before. And what I asked my class is if I put a fair trade certified sticker on my package, that's great. But if people don't know what fair trade certified means, it's not really helping my business, right? So I could assume that fair in trading, and I can put those 2 together like, okay, fair trade. So each group is treated fairly. So now put that in the context of the course that we're working with and where we're seeing where a lot of our things are made versus the people and the way of life in those places. So if I were to ask you, is life in the factory districts of China comparable to our day in life here? Is a job in Vietnam going to be as wealthy or as pays as well as a job in the United States? Is my standard of living in the U.S. the same as it is with Mexico or Malaysia or Bangladesh? No, but that's where a lot of our products come from. All right, so we pay those people a lot less because their money doesn't go as far, or like our dollar goes a lot further in their economy. And so basically what we did today is after discussing a little bit of, one of the common things is where did your shoe come? Like, where's your shoe from? We got a whole mixture of things. Most people in the class, I would say 85% of people had, and that's, there's only about eight of us here today, but the majority of us had a Nike shoe on. And depending on the brand, it was either made in China, Vietnam, or Indonesia. And those are the three big ones that we kind of discussed in class. And those are where a lot of their factories are at. They're in places that the quality of life is not as good. And so it makes the product cheaper, right? So the next thing we discussed was so after looking at where our things were made a little bit, let's look at the top exports and imports by country. So this is called an infographic. So within cars, Germany, $150 billion in car exports. And what's funny is the U.S. imports the most cars out of any country, and a lot of those come from Germany. BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Volkswagen, those are all German companies, right? Refined petroleum, we export and import the most. If you look at how the U.S. is structured and built, we rely on oil and gas specifically because we have to drive everywhere we go, between buses, semis, and just we're built on the highway system. Whereas like Europe, they're a lot closer and more connected, so they have high-speed rail, eco rail, things like that. So these are 2016 exports. Integrated circuits, Hong Kong, they export $96.9 billion worth of integrated circuits. Those are the things that go inside your computer or phone. And then China imports the most because where are the majority of our cell phones? I mean, we did $36 billion worth of trade with China, and the majority of that was in cell phones and computers. And so a lot of that's assembled. All of our Chromebooks, or most of them, are assembled in China, right? Vehicle parts, Germany, the U.S., no shocker there. Computers, China, U.S., no shocker there. So our relations with China is the things that we import the most of. China makes a lot of those things. Pharmaceuticals, we import the most. Germany exports the most. We import $67.5 billion worth of pharmaceuticals, and Germany produces $48.3 billion worth of that. Gold, Switzerland, okay, $82.1 billion in gold. Telephones, China by far, $84.3 billion in cell phones that they export. And the U.S. buys about $53 billion worth of cell phones in a year. Crude petroleum, Russia exports $73.7 billion in oil. And China imports $116 billion in oil. Insane. You think about a lot of the products are made in China. They're made from plastics. And so that's one of the big things. We'll discuss that in just a second as well. Diamonds, India, 24 billion. The U.S. imports the most at about 24 billion itself. India is one of the main places around the world where diamonds are polished and cut. Broadcasting equipment, China. Petroleum gas. Jewelry, insulated wires, medical. So we can go all the way through those. You can pause the video even and look at these at this point, but much smaller scale than the ones that were up above. So again, that's 2016. If we break it down again, the U.S. imported goods here. Imports $3.1 trillion, exports $2.5 trillion. That's about 2.7 this year, I think, and about 3.4, 3.5. Capital goods, consumer goods, industrial goods, automotive, food, feed, beverages, and then look at the comparison of exports, right? So importing 117 billion of these, or 678 billion, and we're only exporting 547. So what you'll notice is the U.S. generally operates on a trade deficit where we actually import more than what we export. Very rarely is it the case the other way around. We spend a lot more money bringing things in because of our money value than we send going out. People just don't want to pay for our workers to make a bunch of stuff. We send out a lot of raw goods and materials, and other people make it, send it back to us for cheaper than we could do it ourselves. So that's very interesting when you compare those numbers. And then lastly, top exporters in the world. Okay, so these are just some of the companies. And what they're measured in are these TEUs, which are 10,000 20-foot equivalent units. So like these guys right here, okay? I think there's two of those per, two per container. Or excuse me, these, I'm an idiot. These on the ships are 10,000 20-foot equivalent containers, okay? 20-foot equivalent units of shipment. So each one of these companies in a year, that's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130. Okay, that's crazy. But if you look, there's a whole slew of different companies that export tens of thousands of things. Now, if you look at our main importers, America's top importers are primarily well-known brands, being well into the consumer market, capitalism. So Walmart, okay, the undisputed top importer of the United States, a single year Walmart's incoming goods would equate nearly 50 of the industry's largest fully loaded cargo ships. Pretty crazy. So Minneapolis, Minnesota is the headquarters, Arkansas is the headquarters of Walmart. Minneapolis is the head of Target. So you have 1 is Walmart, 2 is Target, 3 is Home Depot. We've all heard of them. 4 is Lowe's. 5 is Dole Foods. So like bananas, pineapples, a lot of those coming from Central America and South America too, by ship. Samsung, America. And then you have Family Dollar or Dollar Tree, which a lot of those are probably coming from China. LG Group, Philips Electronics, and lastly, IKEA International. So those are our top 10 importing companies. One thing that people don't know, recyclables are raw materials. So if we look at China's recycling diet, a lot of our recycling is not actually processed and recycled into new containers in the United States. For one, that would be a very stinky and dirty job, and people don't like to do that in the U.S. And lastly, we don't like trash in our country. We send it to other countries. So in 2009, okay, 9 of the top 20 exporters in the U.S. were sending recyclable materials overseas to China, where they convert it back into newer bottles, whatever. I also read somewhere where if one of those giant bales, which would probably be about a fourth of the size of our room, of plastic had one piece of unrecyclable material in it, China would burn it in their furnaces for energy, to like boil water to turn turbines to make electricity. And so there's quite a bit of metric tons of our garbage that gets burned in China as fuel as well. So in 2018, China launched Operation National Sword, which could potentially tie a knot in the steady pipeline of waste materials being imported into the country. For now, Vietnam and Thailand have picked that up, but we're going to have to deal up our domestic recycling in the future if we don't want to have oceans and waterways full of plastic like we see in other parts of the world. And lastly, the thing I want you to kind of look at, we're not going to do anything aside from just figure out what fair trade is today. So just look at the video. Okay, click on that video, and it'll explain kind of some of the benefits of fair trade. And if you'd like to look through that website a little bit, but we're not doing anything other than that. So the worksheet in and of itself today, I'm just going to go ahead and take off because I don't think we're not going to use that. So don't worry about it, right? So I'll just black that out for us. So what is fair trade, the video, and if you want to take a look at that website a little bit, that's fine, but you certainly don't have to. So that's the longest video we've made so far in this series, but hopefully it was informative and included you in our discussion and our conversation about imports, exports, and our partnership with China and other nations around the world. So you guys have a wonderful Tuesday, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Have a good one.